Hannah is a breathwork facilitator and coach that is helping women transform their lives through healing their nervous system and rewiring their mind. She has worked in Australia's first ever breathwork studio and has recently moved to Bali, where she now shares these tools online. Having been on her own personal journey of transformation, she feels passionate to provide others with tools that she experienced firsthand, making a significant difference to her healing growth and her transformation. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. I'd love to explore that with you. The reason I bring it up is you mentioned freedom, and sometimes I think we can fall into, I don't know how to explain this trap, but we're kind of stuck in mundane life. We think things are the way they are because that's the way they are. We don't do a lot of introspection and we're kind of just passively living, I suppose, is the way you could phrase it. It sounds like, so that concept of freedom that you brought up to me is, I got the sense, it's a case of like connecting with your beliefs and values, like what you really want out of life, and then just making change. So being conscious in what you want to do with your life. And there's something really purposeful about that.
Yeah, 100%. So do you want me to dive deep into that quote?
Yeah, I'm just curious. We can dive into the quote. I'm curious from your own life perspective. When was that realization for you, and how did it feel?
So I think initially, like, it felt really good when I realized that I could have more, because I guess on these podcasts, what I was listening to were people who were speaking about the subconscious mind. So what Carl Jung is speaking about there. And they were speaking about neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to change over time. And that was honestly one of the most inspiring moments of my life, when I realized that the fear and the self-sabotage and all of the things that I thought were getting in the way of my desires, I started to look at them in a different way, because I started to see them as actually the gateway to my healing so that I could reach my desires. Because that's actually what they are. They're a mirror to what needs to be healed so that we can grow beyond them. But I was looking at them, I guess, in a limited way before I really realized that. So I think understanding about the science of the subconscious mind and how we have the power to change that. Like, if someone is listening from the community right now and it's the first time hearing that, like, it should send shivers through your entire body, because it actually is telling you that anything is possible, that you can create anything, you can become anyone. Like, it is possible for you. Is it going to take some work? Yes, it will. Will it always feel like Rosie and Daisy? No, but it is possible. So I guess initially when I heard about it, I was like, yes, this is awesome. But it took me a while to actually figure out the how, because everyone teaches it in a different way. And through, I guess, making a lot of mistakes and trying things out, I found a way that I felt actually worked. So I guess with the subconscious mind, what's important to know about it is it dictates 95% of how we perceive reality and how we create reality. So why a lot of us stay stuck in the same patterns and loops is because their subconscious is running on autopilot, which is completely normal. That happens to all of us because it's primarily created early on in life. So between the ages of 0 to 7 is primarily when our beliefs get formed. And so once, it's almost like a software is installed in our brain during those years, and then unconsciously we run out the same beliefs for the remainder of our life, or until we look at them and look what's in there. Now, of course, we're going to have beautiful beliefs stored in our subconscious, but there also might be things that we stored during those years that are limiting us. Because how we perceive life as a child, what we think is good or bad or wrong or right or safe or unsafe, is going to be very different to what we perceive as an adult. And so I think what a lot of people don't realize is that until you do this work, until you actually look at your beliefs and your patterns and what's stored in the subconscious, your 7-year-old self is going to be dictating your reality. And it will be forevermore until, I guess, you decide to do that work. Yeah, I hope that answers that question.
It does. Yeah, you went into brilliant depth there. Thank you so much. It's so fascinating how it can happen from such a young age. And from your experience with Rewire, which of course is your app, what might be some of the most common beliefs that you've come across that people struggle with?
I think the most common one is not feeling good enough. That's definitely the thing that comes up the most. And it's very easy for that to be created, because during those years as a child, if you're doing something in your authentic expression, okay, maybe you're expressing a lot of emotion, or maybe you are not sharing your toys because you just want to play with your own toys. and people around your parents or whoever your caregivers are making what you're expressing authentically wrong, we can start to create shame and we disconnect. We want love from our parents. We want to connect with others. That's like intrinsically built into all of our nervous systems. And so if we feel like being ourselves is going to come at the cost of with connection with others, we'll disconnect from ourselves. And then we will start to create this belief, okay, well, who I am inherently isn't enough. I need to be something else. I need to be someone else. And while that like moment of like not sharing your toys or maybe being told to like be quiet and go to your room if you were expressing emotion might not seem drastic, it's how that compounds over time. It's how many times you were told that. And it compounds and it compounds. So oftentimes when I'm helping people to kind of heal the root cause of these beliefs, it can be something super simple that actually comes to mind, because this is basically what I help people to do when it comes to healing the subconscious, at least. In order to heal the root cause of beliefs, you actually need to go back to the past to connect with the version of you who created that. And I guess that's what I do through hypnosis and also through breath work. This isn't to say, because I also know, and this is important to address, if you have experienced a lot of trauma, sometimes we feel very disconnected from the past. And you can almost be like, well, I don't remember anything from my childhood. How could I remember a memory? It's also not like 100% necessary that you go back to an exact memory and you have to pinpoint it. And if you don't pinpoint the memory, you're never going to heal. Like, I don't want anyone falling into that trap and like starting to believe that from this podcast. But it's more so going back to, even it could be past versions of you. And this could be like around the ages of 6 and 7, you felt this way because of a certain thing. And it's going back. It's not about the memory, but it's about how you're showing up for the version of you who created that. Like actually being there now as the adult that you are today and showing them love and allowing them to be themselves and like holding space for them to feel what they potentially suppressed at the time, because that's still in your nervous system. And as you give yourself a permission slip to do that work, your nervous system will recalibrate and creates safety intrinsically. You're not outsourcing it now to everything else around you. And from what I have witnessed in my own life and my clients' lives, like that work like changes everything. It changes everything.
It's so interesting you brought that up. So as I said, I had a recent conversation with Daniel Raffi, who's like deep in the area of neurology as well. And we spoke about PTSD, and he said they actually do tests to like your childhood and childhood trauma is like a huge factor. So they can actually do tests, almost quantify like how severe your childhood trauma was. I actually asked him the clarifying question, is that whether you doing that with children or is this with adults? And he said it's retrospective with adults.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're kind of talking people through a similar process. And it's not to pinpoint, oh, there's that one moment where everything changed. Like that's not what you're looking for, but it's giving them that safe space. And even just kind of thinking through maybe their childhood or what came up as well can just help, like you said, recalibrate your nervous system and support you in that area. Yeah, it's I'm trying to think of like a follow-up question I have regarding the childhood traumas. And full disclosure, I am not a parent yet, but that seems like a really tough balance. I'm trying to imagine if I am a parent, you need to teach your kids, right? I don't really like the word conform, but you need to conform to society in a way, or like teach them how to navigate through society. But at the same time, like you said, you want them to be authentic and be connected with themselves. Like striking that balance it must be really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I think we'll be figuring that out. And I think it's also to take the pressure off yourself. Like, honestly, I think every child will go through some degree of trauma. I think it's impossible if it doesn't come from the parent. It will probably happen when they're in school. Like something is going to happen along the way. And it's like, it also, I guess there's limits, I guess, or it can create pain, but it can also create a lot of resilience. You know, I've been through a lot of challenging experiences myself, and I know that I wouldn't be where I am today doing the work that I am doing without those moments. So, yeah, there's, I guess, two sides to that coin.
Yeah, absolutely. And as difficult as it is to be in certain situations, and that stress is needed in some form to be able to, like you said, develop resilience to like build and grow as well, as uncomfortable as it might feel at the time.
Yeah, it's like getting in an ice bath, you know? It sucks.
It sucks, but do you know what really sucks is actually the approach to the ice bed. I'm finding is the hardest. That you're walking up, whether it's a ladder or a bucket or whatever you're jumping into. Oh, they're just
Yeah.
that initial, like, you know what's coming. That just
Yeah.
fear almost that comes into you before you actually get into the ice bed.
But over time, it gets easier. That's like, again, your nervous system recalibrating and building that resilience.